Hi, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca. I'm a certified personal trainer, holistic health coach, and future chiropractor on my way to figuring out this thing we called life. Now, let's get babbling. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca, and guys, we finally made it. Or I guess I should call you my babblers made it. Guys, we made it. I had a friend recently tell me that, or it wasn't a friend, it was like a group of people that I met, and they asked me what my audience name was, and I was like, I don't know. I never gave them like the watchers a name. I don't know. I'm just not that kind of person where like I start a YouTube channel or something and then I'm like, hey, they're my blah 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 or whatever. And they're like, they should be called the Babblers. So let me know if you think I should start calling you guys the Babblers or if you want to be known as that. Because if you don't, then I don't want to keep calling you that and you not want to listen to this podcast. But anyways, I finished Try 9. Well, I guess I have one more week of Try 9, but basically all of my stuff is done. And I'm almost a doctor, guys. Like, I'm almost a licensed chiropractor and like actually going to be helping people, which I already kind of have been in the clinic, but it's gonna be so much different and I'm so excited. And I can't wait for all of you guys to go through clinic, go through graduation, and have that excitement of I made it through these 3.5 years and I'm going to be an amazing chiropractor and I'm going to help so many people because there's so much confusion right now in the world. I don't know when you're listening to this, but currently right now there's so much like AI and social media and information overload that people are just looking for someone who will just tell them the truth and let them know that it's okay. You don't have to know everything and it's going to be fine. And I'm going to be your guide by your side and help you along the way. And I just can't wait to be one of those people. And I feel like what I'm talking about right now should be more of like my try 10 message. But what I want to stress to you right now, and I kind of talked about this through some of my other podcasts that I've done on like reflecting on the trimesters, is really figure out your why. Because that's going to push you through this last little bit. But also, not only that, keep you going when you're out of school. One of my mentors challenged me to create a why, or I had a why, but he challenged me to reframe the why and just refine it. And every time I go back and try and refine it just a little bit more, it just fires me up. I'm like, let's do this thing. So, if you don't already know, usually towards the end of the trimesters of chiropractic school, I'm, well, okay, backpedal, but if you don't already know, I am currently a Try 9 student at Parker University, and I am about to graduate of August of 2026, which is crazy. And usually what I'll do here is I'll just reflect back on the trimester, give you guys like a full outline of like either classes or expectations of what the trimester will look like, and then I'll like answer people's questions or questions that I think would be helpful. I will say, because now that I'm in clinic, they're looking a little bit different because you have a little bit less of classes, and then Try 9 is just extremely different. So this podcast is going to look a little bit different. I always say I'm going to try and get this down to one episode, but we'll actually see if that happens. My current outlet of how I want to plan this is supposed to only make sense for one, but we'll see. Maybe I'll just make this one a 2-hour podcast and you can just put it on 2 times speed and listen to it in an hour, because I know you guys all are listening to your lectures on 1.5 or 2 times speed. So why can't you just do that with a podcast anyways? But I'm gonna go into what Try 9 is actually like, what I did right, what I wished that I would have changed, and what I wish people would have told me beforehand. And I'll also sprinkle in like stuff about CBI or like internship stuff. And just, I feel like the mental shift of Try 9 is the big one, or the the mental noise that you might be going on in the background. And Try 9 is going to look different for everyone. Every trimester is going to look different for everyone, but specifically Try 9 because you are now in this space of you're either the person who's just checking off the boxes and then being like, well, this is another class and I just got to get this done and blah, 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 blah. If you're more like me, you're thinking, okay, I really want to try and be the best clinician I can. There are some like boundaries that I gotta like maintain, but then also I'm thinking in the back of my head, like, oh my goodness, what CPI do I want to go to? Which one's gonna like help me the best right out of practice? And then like, what is it gonna look like after school? And oh my goodness, I'm gonna be treating people and they're actually going to be paying me money, and I really want to take care of them, and I don't know if I'm actually ready. Am I actually going to be ready? So all of those things. And then you might be a person who's like the combo of both. So again, Try 9 is different for everyone, and I'll try and make sure that I kind of explain how it might be different for everyone, but it's probably mostly going to be my take. And I feel like most people feel the same in Try 9. It's just some people like to acknowledge it more than others. I will say with Try 9, it is so nice to literally only have like one, kind of like two classes and no exams whatsoever. I took part 2 and 3 boards in Try 8. So if you have questions about that, make sure you listen to my Try 8 podcast recap, because that will go into more of how I studied for part 2 and 3 boards. I will have been taken part 4 in Try 10. That's my plan. I don't know how helpful it will be for some of you guys, because I am taking the one where it's like the last one where it's going to be tested this way. But I'll probably end up giving you my experience anyways, because why not? The classes that you'll have are kind of the same as like what you had in Try 8. So you'll have your CD lab, or now it's going to be CD2 lab, clinical development 2, and you'll still have an IP lab, or class, but it's going to be IP2, so interim practicum is I think what it stands for too, and that'll just be keeping track of your service credits, your patients, external spinals, all of that stuff, your IMAs. So all of those things are completely the same. You'll still have an IMA 1, 2, and 3, and you may or may not have to go to radiology. I didn't have to. I did that week 14 and 15 of Try 8, so that's kind of dependent on that. And then if you have a master's like I do, then you'll have that, and that's pretty much it. So it sounds amazing, but I will say, it's very, like, the structure is less. You have to be in clinic for more time, and you have to figure out, how am I going to manage my mental brain overload of I just want to be done, but then I also am like, what am I going to do after school? And all of that noise in your head can really occupy like how you want to spend your time. So make sure that you just keep your mental health in check, and yes, acknowledge it, but don't let it keep you from how you want to manage your time and that overwhelm. I will also say, and I've been a little bit better about this towards the end of the trimester, like, these are people who you've spent 3.5 years with, almost 3.5 years with. Take some time to just have fun with your friends in school and outside of school, because you're probably not going to see these people anymore. There's been a lot of bittersweet moments towards the end of the trimester where I'm like, this is probably going to be one of the last times that I will see you before graduation. And then after that, you kind of just go, pfft. Which, like, not to say that you're not going to see that person ever again or be in contact with them. It's just like, you've been with these people for 3.5 years and seen them every single day, or at least every single week, depending on how close your friendship is. And it's not going to be like that anymore. So really take the time to like spend time with these people that are not only going to be your peers, but are going to be some of your closest friendships. And for me, that looked like playing a lot of pickleball towards the end of the trimester and beating a lot of them, of course. I will say in the clinic though, you will still be seeing patients. It's just going to be a lot slower, or at least it was for me. The days feel really long and you'll have like one patient. And then maybe that patient cancels, so then you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs being like, well, I still gotta get all these hours in clinic. What am I gonna do? So it makes the trimester feel really, really long. I will say that like first 4 weeks of school was still like that chaos that Tri 8 kind of felt like because I was just trying to shuttle in all of my interns. But the middle to like especially the end, it like just drags on, especially when you have to like get all of your hours in just clocked in at the clinic. And when I say like it felt like chaos or I don't necessarily want to say chaos, it just it felt busy and it went by really fast. So for me in Tri 8, it was like I was seeing at least 3 to 4 people almost every single day, if not every other day. And that was because my tri was very small, so there's only like about 60 of us, to where I know the students that are a trimester behind me, there's like about 200 of them. So I don't know exactly how their day to day was like, but it was probably a little bit different than ours, to where they probably didn't have a patient 1 or 2 days out of the week. But again, it's so much different when you just have those consistent students that come in rather than it just being externals and you're actually dealing with like everyday people who have crazy schedules, family, have to pay for coming in to see you. And it really gets you in that mindset of like, oh my goodness, like I really need to prioritize my patients and making them feel valued and communicating and working on my soft skills and realizing nonverbal cues and making that person feel really valued and heard in and outside of your appointments. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later about how I did that or how I wish I would have done that and other advice that I was given. But the bottom line here is that Tri 9, you're not like, no one's holding your hand anymore. And yes, you'll still have your CFDs, like still helping you and stuff like that, but like, you are about to graduate. And you better figure out what you're gonna do. Like, this is with love, like, tough love here. Like, don't just let this try pass you by. If you are wondering what you're gonna do after school and you kind of have some docs that you've talked to a little bit, but not a ton, and you're nervous to reach out, or maybe you go to seminars and you're like, oh, I don't want to go and like talk to docs because I don't know what to offer them. Like, talk to them. Literally just say like, hey, what chiropractic school are you from? Or where'd you graduate from? Where do you live now? And then like, oh, what got you into this? And blah, 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 blah. And like, then the like conversation will naturally flow out. You don't have to give these people anything, and just realize like, yes, you may be younger than this person, but you actually don't know. And yes, they are a doctor, but you're about to be one as well. And you have to create opportunities for yourself because things aren't going to fall into your lap. I don't want you guys to go through this whole thing of school and then just be like, oh no, I don't know what to do. Like, you put blood, sweat, and tears into this school. You deserve to go somewhere that you want to go to and work at, if that's something you want to do. If you want to start your own thing, like, stop just saying, I'm going to start my own thing. Where? What does it look like? Who are you attracting? What is your business model going to look like? Like, do all of those things and start using that time where you have a full day of like not seeing patients and just dedicate 2 hours. 2 hours before all of your friends come to school and you get distracted, because we all know it happens, and you guys start debating about different things, whether it is something chiropractic related, rehab related, or something about what the best chip is. I don't know. So just, yes, enjoy the trimester, but then also realize that like you are about to be a doctor and no one's going to hold your hand anymore. And so start building that muscle of, what would I do if no one else was here? Because that's going to help you when you graduate. Because in try 1 through try 7, the vibe was very much just like everything's about like what's the next test? What's the next like good grade that I can get? I'm just trying to pass, or I'm just trying to like get good grades, and I want to keep my GPA, yada yada yada. But I'm also like on the side trying to be a great clinician, go to seminars and do all these things, and I feel like I'm treading water and I don't know what I'm doing, but I really just want to pass my class. Like that was like try 1 through try 7. Try 8 was very much like I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. I haven't been in clinic before, and I don't want to like mess up the patient, but I also fully want to hear the patient, and I don't want to get in trouble with the whole documentation thing, and I don't want my CFD to be mad at me, or I don't want them not to like me. And so there's like overload there, and you're like, and then I also have capstone and boards that I'm trying to deal with, and I don't want to fail that either, because like those are $700 worth of board exams. And then you get to try 9, and there's a lot more space. There's a lot more forced independence, and you can either take that as time of reflection or time of fear of the future. So it's your choice on how you want to show up and how you want your try 9 to be. So it's very much choose your own adventure, and I encourage you to take the one of I am taking the independence, I am reflecting, redefining who I am as a clinician, how I want to show up, what my day-to-day looks like, what my values are, what my why statement is, and you're not going to be perfect. I'm saying all these things because there were weeks, yes, that I probably did not show up the way that I wanted to show up. I acknowledged that, and then the next appointment, I showed up better. I knew it, I reflected, and then I promised myself I was going to show up better, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Because you're not checking boxes anymore. I feel like going through school, it was very much just checking the boxes, and like try 8, yes, I very much also tried to figure out like how can I best take care of this patient, but then also follow the rules that I was given in this like Parker Clinic box bubble thing. But you also got to check the boxes because you got to do your IMAs right. You're still trying to figure out how the whole clinic thing works. You're still trying to figure out the different codes and stuff like that. So yes, you're more checking the boxes in try 8, but try 9, it's like you should have it down by this point. You shouldn't be asking about different codes, and you shouldn't, like, it shouldn't feel as much of a struggle. Because that was what try 8 was for. Now it's like, okay, I know what it looks like. I know what they expect from me. Now start asking yourself, even more than what you did in try 8, why you're doing certain therapies, why you're doing certain rehab exercises, why you're doing certain orthos and neuros and whatever other thing you want to do. What is actually the best plan for this patient and their lifestyle, not just what you think is best. Like actually hear and listen to the person. How can you improve your skills? Not just your clinical ones, but also your soft skills. So things like reading people's body language. I wish I did more of this. It's kind of been acknowledged to me a little bit more. I will say I am pretty aware of people's body language for the most part, but I have learned there is a whole nother level, and I want people to feel safe around me and feel heard. But sometimes you will get that patient where they don't want to open up much. And I had to figure out a way of like, how am I going to change that? And I'm pretty sure my mentora told me it was like 78% of like communication is nonverbal body language, and 3 to 8% was like words. So I could say everything to my patient and be like, okay, they must get it. They must understand that I care about them. All of these things because I told it to them. Wrong. Most of it comes from how are you showing up? Yes, we all know you're probably going to be shaky during the IMAs. Yes, it can sometimes be nerve-wracking that first time that you meet a patient, you have no idea who they are. But whatever it is that gets you in the zone before you are about to treat a patient, do that because you better come in with confidence, and with confidence, but also ease. You can't be overzealous and have this like God complex because then no one's going to want to open up to you. But then you also can't be the like super empathetic, feel like you can get pushed all over the place. Also depends on what kind of patient you're dealing with, but just be more aware of how you are showing up, but then also what the patient's body language is telling you. Because that's going to tell you more about their day-to-day life than some of the things that they're telling you. I also want to say the thing that scares you the most, the therapy that scares you the most, the adjustment that scares you the most, do it. Because there's a CFD, either your CFD or maybe it's a different CFD that knows how to do that therapy, whether it's neurodynamics, DNS, shockwave, or I don't know, whatever other thing you want to categorize it as. There is someone in there that has done that, loves that, will tell you everything about it, and will hold your hand along the way. Now, when you graduate, not going to happen. So challenge yourself as much as you can. And I encourage you, like, when I was getting ready for my week, and I was kind of like, okay, I want to focus on this week, or I need to get these assignments done, blah, 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 blah. Have a goal of like, this is the week where I'm going to challenge myself. I'm always going to try this adjustment that I know I struggle with. So for me, that was like seated CT and seated occiput. When I had a patient that I knew, especially when I had my internals, because I felt a little bit more comfortable because they obviously weren't paying, I was like, okay, we're doing this every single time. And that helped me get those reps in. But same thing, if like you're uncomfortable with doing neurodynamics, do that. Try it out. Obviously, if it makes sense for that certain patient, so you may need to say like, hey, when this patient comes in, I'm going to practice this. But then also like with your friends, be like, okay, you may not have a patient that week that like does neurodynamics, but maybe you do neurodynamics on your friends and just be like, hey, can I try this? How did this feel? And test things out. Because you got the time. I know you have the time. I'd also say that this is why you go to seminars. Because yes, Parker can get in the way because you got to do the grades, you got to pass the IMAs, you got to get the credit, but you get to decide how clinic shapes you and who you want to be. And for me, going to seminars, because it's really easy to fall into that. I just got to get that soft tissue, I just got to get the rehab, and I just got to get my adjustment, and boom, I'm done. But when you go to a seminar, like I went to the R2P symposium, and if you want more information on what that was like, I did a podcast with my friend Dominic. I'll make sure to link it in the description if you want to go and listen to that and all the takeaways that we got from that. But going to a seminar like that, or when I went to a Justathon in Try 8, like it just reshapes your mindset when you go back into clinic. Because then you're like, ooh, I want to try this. I wonder how this would affect this patient. Like I remember when I went to the R2P symposium and they had showed us this like move, and I was like, what the heck is this? It was like a weird stretch thing, and turns out it was like this therapy called Eldoa, and it's about stretching the fascial tissue, but like in an active way. The patient does this, you don't do it to them. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I had a patient who, like, straight back as possible, was a golfer and a volleyball player. And I was like, low back pain. And we had been working on some stuff and he was getting better. I was like, I wonder how this would work with this patient. Like I was already thinking of patients that I would try this on. It gets you really excited, which makes me even more excited because I know as a practitioner, when I am seeing patients after I graduate, going to seminars, like I'm going to have this bank of patients that I have and I'll be like, oh, I'll do it with that one and I'll do it with that one and I'll do it with that one. So that's exciting. But then do that now in clinic as well. Like go to the seminars, and then it makes you be like, ooh, I want to try this, instead of getting in that checkbox situation. Another way that I had challenged myself was, I keep bringing up neurodynamics, is because I had a patient that I had to do neurodynamics on. And neurodynamics, not gonna lie, kind of scares me. Like, it's interesting, and I kind of understand it, and I've had it done on me, and I've tried to break it down and ask the questions, but I haven't fully, like, gone in. And I had a patient that responded to neurodynamics really well, and I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And it was really cool because the first appointment, he came in and he had sent me a message already saying some stuff that has been going on. And he came in, so I kind of had an idea of like, okay, I know this is definitely going to be a nerve issue. But I was hoping and praying that Mackenzie press ups would work. No. I was like, dang it. So then, of course, I did a side lying opener. And he was like, oh, this actually feels good. And I knew how to deal with the side lying opener. But then I was like, I don't know where to go from here. And I want to tell you that it's okay to pause and think. For me, I struggle with a lot of thinking that the patient wants me to already know all the answers, and I gotta do the thing, then the thing, then the thing, and then I'm scared that I won't, like, get all the notes done in time to then get it signed off by the CFD, and then I'm gonna get in trouble, and then all these things. Pause and think. I promise you, taking 10 seconds to just think what your next step is gonna be. Your patient isn't gonna think anything less of you, and you will have enough time. They give you 55 minutes for a reason. And the reason why I finally let myself just like pause and think, I even remember the patient was like, I'm so sorry, I'm being a really bad patient. Because this was his second visit where he came up and he got a little flared up because I was trying something that someone had told me to do. Again, this is totally expected at a student clinic. And so I had to sit and think. And the reason why I let myself do this and was like, this is going to be okay, is because one of the people that I look up to, who's a chiropractor, who has helped me with stuff, he sat there and went and just was thinking. And I could tell he was thinking. And I was like, I never thought anything less of him as a doctor, as a person, or anything, because he sat there and just thought about what his next steps were. I knew he was processing, I knew he cared about me, and I knew he was smart. So why isn't that the same thing for you? So let yourself think, but then also be okay with you are going to forget some things, and you're not going to be perfect. For example, that same neurodynamics case, where I had a patient where he had like all these nerve symptoms. Most people would be like, do slumps. Because that is common to then test the tension of the lower quarter nerves. You would think in my first appointment, I would have done slumps. But I was like, nope. I already know he's like super flared up. I'm kind of nervous about that. And all I wanted to do was that side-lying foraminal opener because I was like, that's my next step and that's what I'm going to do. I completely forgot slumps. And then I was talking about it with a friend and they were like, did you do slumps? And I was like, no. And I felt so dumb in that moment. So again, slow down, think what your next steps are, but if you forget something, then you realize like, oh shoot, I need to do this. Just do it in the next visit. They're gonna come back. If they feel like you're taking the whole time to hear their history, to really help them through things, to explain things, that was the big thing. Like, most of our first appointment, I was trying to explain some things to him, and then he was asking questions, and I was like, give me 1 second. Went and ran and got a spine, started explaining all the things, and you could tell he was really grateful that I took the time to explain what was going on in his body and why I was doing what I was doing, because most patients don't get that. So if they are interested and they want to know what's going on, tell them. And if you mix up a few of the words, it's fine. You're not going to be perfect, but now is the time to mess up the verbiage, to mess up the explanation, because I would rather you do it in student clinic than when you're either in your own clinic or in someone else's. I had another patient that challenged me a lot too. He wasn't necessarily, like, the case itself wasn't difficult, but my view of adjusting and progress had to change. And he was one of my older patients, and I remember just palpating his spine and being like, this feels like AS. Like, it was just rod on rod on rod on rod. I don't even know if his spine's gonna move. And so I did some like T-spine mobilizations just to get some movement in there. And then I adjusted him, and he said, he was like, oh yeah, like I felt it like start to move or like feel more motion in there. But I didn't feel anything, and I was like, I don't know what's happening here. And then it was like 3 weeks later, he comes back in, and I was like, whoa, this dude's got a lot of thoracic spine extension. I say a lot in relation to what we started with. And it was crazy how much his body adapted in this like span of time. And I was so used to palpating and adjusting people in club. And when you're adjusting bodies that are like relatively healthy and are in their like 20s to early 30s, most of the time when you adjust them, like, they get more motion. Like, boom, you already see a couple of degrees more, or they already had a lot of motion in the first place. And when you get a patient like this, I was ready to see, like, okay, we got more motion now. Nope, didn't happen. But then it was like when you have an infant who they don't grow at all, and then a day later they wake up and you're like, did you just grow like 2 inches? That's what it felt like with this older patient. So don't force yourself to feel like you have to like make these giant leaps and changes. That's what your like audits are for. So yes, test range of motion, but also, did your trigger points decrease? Did their pain centralize? Did the intensity of the pain decrease? Did their other findings, like if they had neuro findings or anything like that, or did your orthopedic tests like decrease in pain or whatever it is? Have different audit points than just range of motion, so then you know that you're on the right track. So challenge yourself as much as you can with different patients and reflect back on like what you could have done better. I started getting into the habit of thinking about each appointment because, again, I'm only seeing like 2 patients a week. To where like, hopefully, when I'm in practice, I'm like seeing tons and tons of patients. And if you give yourself the time to reflect back now on the patients that you have and really get critical, then like, to me, I feel like you'll start seeing what you need to do quicker. And also, I just wanted to give as much as I could in every single one of my appointments. So I'd reflect back and be like, okay, this changed, this didn't change, what went well, what didn't go well, what do I actually need to do next time? Whether that be something I said, my body language, how I showed up, the tests that I did, the adjustments that I did, all of those things. Start reflecting on that, because you're about to become a doctor and you're not a student anymore. And you gotta take on the responsibility of things, and you gotta stop blaming everyone around you, whether it's the school, whether it's your CFD, whether it's your friends around you, or I don't know what else you're complaining about. Because all of those things are out of your control. The thing that is in your control is how you show up and how you adapt. A professor once told me that the more that you're able to adapt, the better the clinician you're going to be. Because not every patient that walks into your door is going to be the kind of patient that you either A, want to treat, or the case that you want to treat, or you're going to have to be able to change and work around things. So start using that muscle now. Because, again, the more that you do it now, the easier it's going to be later. Now, okay, you probably wanted to, like, listen to the, like, bullet, what is it, Knits and Grannies bullets or whatever? The, like, main real deal stuff when it comes to clinic. So, most of you guys probably already know that you mostly just see externals in Try9. You can see internal others. You can't see internals anymore. So you can't see students. But I think what isn't talked about enough is that you can see your internals for the first 4 weeks of school. So don't already stop, like, texting your internals. I think that was the biggest mistake that a lot of people made. I made sure I stayed in contact with all of my internals. I was like, hey, like, my last appointment of Try 8, I was like, hey, let's schedule an appointment for next try. I don't care if they don't know their schedule. I don't care if they're gonna have to reschedule. It will at least send them the reminder and they're gonna be like, hey, I need to reschedule, but they already know that they're on the books. And if they didn't, then that first week of school, you know for sure I was like, hey, I hope your break was well, and I can't wait to see you again. What time works best for you? Because getting that 120 service credits is not easy. And yes, you can see your pod partner 3 times a week, or 2 to 3 times a week if you want. But if you get the chance to end early in Try9, it's so nice. Like, it's so relieving to be like, okay, I got my 120 service credits, I'm okay, here we go. The other thing is when it comes to externals, you're gonna need 40 external spinals for CBI. Now, you may have already gotten some external spinals last try, in Try 8. Those count towards the ones for this try. So let's say you got 10 in Try 8, and then you started this try and you didn't stay over the break. You just got to get 30 more. So wherever you're at on that scale, like, that's all you got to meet for that CBI requirement. Now, there's, like, a ton of other, like, how many specific, like, active therapies you need, or if you want to switch that out with the soft tissue and stuff like that, or passive modalities. But if you hit those 120 service credits and you get your 40 spinals, and with most of your externals, what I did is I did an external spinal credit, and then I at least did a soft tissue or an adjusting credit. Or sorry, soft tissue or a active therapy credit. Because if you're doing that, then you pretty much get about the number that you need for the other modalities. It brings down the overwhelm and the, like, confusion of all the numbers. Now, I get a lot of questions about, like, how to get the externals to come in, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But I also wanted to bring up the, like, people will say, like, oh, I'll just wait till, like, for people to hand them down. No. Don't rely on people just handing down your externals, because I know a lot of people right now who are dealing with that, and it just makes the end of the trimester so stressful. You want to get to the end of the trimester and then just have to deal about getting your hours, rather than hoping and praying that your externals come in and don't cancel on you, or someone will hand something down and have extra. Like, yes, it's nice, but don't rely on it. You will have to get more hours this trimester. So last try, I think you had to get like 270, unless they've upped it. This trimester, we had to get 340. So kind of a big jump, but not too bad. If you're at least there, I think it was like 30 hours a week, which like seems like a lot, but it's not too bad. You'll be fine. I also know like I wanted to be done by like week 11 so that I could just tutor for the rest of the trimester and like make that money before like I have no outside job. You don't have to do that. So it kind of just depends on like how you want to play the game and when you want to get done. And then also I felt like it was nice to think a couple weeks earlier, so then if anything happened, then I would just get done at that week 15 part and I wouldn't have to freak out. Some people also ask me a question of like, what about like going over the break and how all that works? So when you go over the break, which some of my friends did this, I didn't do it because it was over the winter break and I just wanted to spend Christmas at my house and not have to go to the student clinic. For that, what you can do is you can get external spinals that go towards CBI. So let's say you had 4 by the end of this end of try 8, and then you decide like, hey, I want to stay over the break. I want to get some external spinals. You can do that. So let's say you went from, what did I say, 3, I think. So you went from 3 to then you got a couple of external spinals, so now you're up to 10. Now you're going into try 9 with 10 external spinals that go towards your CBI. You can also get hours. So the 340 hours that you'll have to get in try 9, you can get those hours and they count towards the hours that you need for try 9. So let's say you got 40, then you only have to get 300 in try 9. What you can't get during the break is your service credit count, because the 120 service credits is for a grade for a class that hasn't started yet. That's the only thing. So a lot of people have been asking me again about like, how do I get externals? I feel like that's like the number one question. Go during break if you are struggling right now. Yeah, I know it sucks if like, yes, like you may not live here in Texas. Go home for a week, or like stay here for a week and then go home. Especially if you're struggling, like not a lot of people are going to want to stay over the break. And it's really easy to start racking up those external spinals, because I had a friend, he was really struggling and then he came back and he had like the same amount as me. And I was like, whoa, okay. That's cool. So that's one way if you're struggling right now and you're kind of nervous about getting those 40 external spinals. I would also say, like, you might be that kind of person who's like, no, I'll be fine. For us, that like 4 weeks where we could get our our internals to come in, that last week and a half, we had a huge ice storm in Texas. So it was like, I had all of my internals starting to book, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna almost like be halfway done with my like service credits. This is gonna be great. All I could just see, like every day when the school started like canceling, I was like, well, there goes those 3, there goes those 3, there goes those 4, and I was like, ah. So life happens. Just try and be a little bit prepared if you can. Now, some of you are going to be freaking out and being like, I'm never going to get enough and I don't know what to do. I know for me, I had told myself, I was like, okay, my goal is to have like 5 consistent externals, because that's what's going to get me to the numbers that I need. It's going to be fine. That didn't work because I had some people come in and then some people drop off, and like, it was so funny. The amount of people, and this is what I need to work on definitely. It might just be the way that I'm like educating to patients, but the amount of times that I would get them from like, maybe they were at like an 8 or 7 on the pain scale, and I'd get them down to like a 3 or 1. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And she showed me how to like decrease my pain. This is great. And then they wouldn't show up. And I'd be like, it happens. It's okay. That's part of the learning process. So instead of looking at it as like, I need to get 5 externals a week, 5 consistent externals coming in and seeing me, because some will be on wellness plans, some will be on active plans, some will be on functional plans. Just be like, my goal is to see 2 externals a week and get 2 external spinals. That way, you won't feel like you're falling behind because you don't have that consistent 5 coming in. Because I had some random people showing up here or there, and then they stopped coming in, and then I was like, oh shoot, like I really need them to come back in. And then I'll have that one like random wellness patient that comes in once a month. It's gonna be okay. Just try and roughly stay around that like 2 a week, and you'll get up to those 40 spinals. It was also really hard for me to like change this mindset because again, we went from try 8 where it was like I was pretty much done with my service credits and like my internal credits by week like 10, and it was like boom 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 boom, and I just saw the numbers going up and up and up and up. And then it was like, then we had the snow week, and then it was like trying to get patients to come back in from the snow week, and then it was like, why is no one showing up just because we had that one snow week, yet you were so consistent before then. And then it just felt like the numbers just like barely went up. Now it also didn't help that like VO and the whole system for the counting all the numbers kind of fell behind, but it was nice when it jumped back up real quick. But it's just a very different change of pace going from try 8 to try 9 when you're just trying to hit those numbers. So I promise that growth is happening. It just might feel a little bit slower, and you're gonna have to be patient and let that impatient like little child that's like screaming inside of you of like, I'm gonna fall behind, chill out for a bit. Now I will say, I will help you in the sense of like how to get patients. Because a lot of people are like freaking out about how to get patients, and I know some people are like, well, you live here in Texas and so it's easy for you and blah 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 blah. Okay, maybe. But I also live in Texas in a way of like, I have people who know about Dallas and don't like Dallas, don't like going to Dallas. So that's the one thing. One thing I will tell you, do not tell people here in Texas that the clinic is in Dallas. Yes, there's the Irving Clinic, but say something like, oh, the like Las Colinas area. People who live here in Texas are like, oh, so it's outside of Dallas. They're thinking our clinic is deep, deep in Dallas. Make it sound like it's not deep, deep in Dallas, so then they won't be like, oh man, I gotta go through all of that Dallas traffic. This is awful. Like I had this one lady before I decided to start changing it from like, oh yeah, it's in Dallas to it's in Las Colinas. Or just like right outside Las Colinas. She was like, oh, it only took me like 15 to 20 minutes. This actually wasn't that bad. And she was living in like the Bedford area. So when people hear Dallas, they kind of freak out. So change that verbiage there. That's one thing. But then also talk to everyone. And don't just give them the card. Have a conversation. And put your number on the back of the card, but then also see if they'll give you their number. So like when I went to my gym, not the school gym, but like my home gym, I had been seeing these people pretty consistently, and yes, I had been telling them like, yeah, I'm a chiropractic student, I'm like going into clinic, and they would like joke and be like, oh, I'll be your patient and blah blah blah, and I'm like, hey, I'm holding you accountable to that. And then they'd shown up and I was like, hey, come and see me in clinic. And so I got their number and I started texting them and I told them everything. And then especially if like the clinic was doing a sale, I like definitely sent that to them. And I was able to get one of them to come in. At my church, I talked about it all the time. Or my church groups, I talked about it all the time. When I was checking out at Trader Joe's or Costco, I started talking about it. One of my friends, we went on a trip and this was really funny actually. We came straight from chiropractic school. And she had her doctor bag with all of her stuff in it. So all of her tools. So her like her what is it called? The rolling pin? The pinwheel. Wow. The pinwheel, the reflex hammer, and her pencil. I don't even know. Was it her lotion? I think it was her lotion that got her. And so we were going through security, and the security person was like, "Oh, we gotta check this bag," and she was like, "Oh, okay," and she's like, "I'm so sorry, I totally forgot about my doctor bag. We just came from school," and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Wait, are you a chiropractor or are you a doctor?" And she was like, "Well, I'm a chiropractic intern." And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then she's like, "Are you like seeing patients or something?" And she's like, "Yes." And then like she literally gave her a card. And then the lady who was like going through all of her stuff, she then went up to one of the other people and was like, "Yeah, she's a chiropractic intern." I don't know if she ended up seeing her or not, but like that just shows you, if you have a conversation with someone and put your phone down and just start handing out cards and like have a smile on your face, people will want to come and see you, or at least like gives you the reps of like starting to talk to people and have more of a conversation. I'd also say, if you're like still struggling, go on Facebook groups. So when I was a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I was really heavy into doing that and like trying getting clients, I would join Facebook groups like the wellness moms, or the like hiking groups, or just things that I knew that I would connect well with those types of people. I'd also say the wellness mom groups are great groups to join if you're in a chiropractic realm, especially like this. So things like that, and just like text in there being like, don't just necessarily advertise, like depending on what the roles of the group is, but you can also just like, maybe someone has a question, you can answer the question. Or maybe they have an event, go to the event and start talking to people. So like the hiking group, for instance, I joined a hiking group and I had been going to this group for a while, but then I had stopped going and then I went back. And the head lady knew me. And then, so that kind of gave me credit. And then she would start talking to some other people, and all of them would start like getting interested. And so then they'd start talking. And so then they thought about coming in. Now, I wasn't super thorough about reaching out to them because I was pretty much like almost done with my credits by this point. And I just already had my like externals that were going to come in. But like that is another way. Yes, I did already create that relationship beforehand. So like at the beginning of chiropractic school, so it might not be as helpful now creating those kinds of relationships, but you never know. So like join a softball group, join a soccer group, things like that, or a pickleball group. Like there are so many pickleball groups now. You can find people, I promise. And if worse comes to worse, go on Saturdays. I started telling a lot of people to start going on Saturdays because they were like struggling to get externals, and I was like, you need to get the 340 hours anyways. And the amount of people, I think I went on, like no one wants to go in on Saturday. But again, these are things you have to get done. And so do the thing. So you got to get hours anyways. And I had to see a patient that one morning, and the amount of people that were called in as a walk-in, as a new patient, there were so many. I think I was only there for like half the time and there was already 3 walk-ins, which is kind of crazy. And if you're like, well, but I just don't want to sit there and do nothing. Okay, do your master's assignment. Do like your IMA 3 that you need to do, or the carry forward note. Like get all of that stuff done that you don't really like doing during the week, and just do it during that time, and then just listen for someone to call in for a walk-in. And then it'll make it even easier when you have to get those clinic hours that you really don't want to have to get and just sit there for. But then when you do get them, and this is the big thing, is treat your patients like they're VIPs. I don't care what assignments you have. I don't care what event you're going to. I don't care what else is going on. Your top priority should be your patients, because you want them to come back. So I'm not saying you have to like obsess over them, but when you start having the conversation with a patient and they start saying something about their kid, and they tell you their kid's name, or they tell you that they've got a basketball tournament coming up, or that they're getting a new puppy, or that they're really into March Madness, and this is their team they're going for. Write it down. You may be the type of person who can remember everything that someone has told you. I am not one of those kinds of people. And so in my little note about the patient, I'd always write in the patient's kid's name or something they're super interested in to bring up next time. And when they feel heard, yes, it's nice to feel heard in the sense of what's going on pain-wise, but also as a person, it's nice. And then they really feel like you care about them because you don't just see them as a adjusting credit, you don't just see them as a person with pain, you see them as the person that they are and the things that they care about. So start writing that stuff down. Another thing is what I started doing, and I did this in Try 8 as well, I just don't think I mentioned it. After every appointment, especially if they were ones that were higher on the pain scale, but even if they weren't, I'd always send a follow-up message of, how did you feel after your appointment yesterday? How did that exercise go? Just checking up on them. Now I will say, LAK, one of our professors, she had inspired me to do something else that I haven't started, which I will definitely do with my future patients. And I've talked about this, or I've been told this before, I just don't know why I didn't think about it in clinic, but creating templates of emails to send. So you can use ChatGPT for this now, but definitely try and personalize it before you just create just a general one. But just be hey, it was great to see you yesterday. Following up on how this blah 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 felt. And or just talk about generally what you found, what they need to mostly be aware of, whether that is a pain scale thing of hey, when you do these exercise, remember we want to stay in the green zone, or maybe hit into a yellow depending on what you're dealing with. We don't want to be at an 8 or a 10. And then maybe you have some exercise videos. If you don't, and thankfully the DMAX have a ton of videos, or LAK has a I don't know if hers are you can actually use hers or not. But you have YouTube, who has other people who have recorded a bunch of exercise stuff that you could probably send in that email of hey, here's an actual video. And then when you actually become a chiropractor or you have some extra time, video the exercises so that they can follow it. Because we all know when we go into class and we learn something, we're yeah, we got it. And then you come back the next day and you gotta study or do it. You're I literally forgot everything because I had 2 other classes beforehand, and my daughter lost her lunch, and something crazy happened the other night before. It happens. That's also going to happen with your patients because their top priority isn't always the exercises that they're doing. I wish it was, but it's not always. So that's some ways that you can start making your patients feel like VIPs, because you are actually going the extra mile than what most doctors are doing. And then they feel more cared for. And you may just be oh, well, this is just student clinic and blah, blah, blah. These are your first steps of becoming a real doctor. So, again, start them now so that it's easier later on. Another thing that I didn't mention was you'll have to get lecture hours. So in Try 8, your lecture hours were done with orientation because you spent a week and a half literally sitting in lecture for 8 hours. 8 to 5 hours. So then now what you have to do are lecture hours. And most docs, I think they started them week 3. And so minimum, try and get those done as soon as you can, but minimum do 2 a week. So for me, what that looked like is I went to the gym in the morning, and then at 8 o'clock, when most of them had Davies usually does his Mondays, and I think it was Thursdays. And then I don't remember the other ones, to be completely honest, and they usually change them up anyways. But I would try and go to his on Monday, and then my CFD usually had his on Fridays, most of the time. don't procrastinate these because it's really easy to do so. And for me, I'm the type of person like I would rather get to choose which lecture hours I can go to, because if there's ones that I don't really want to hear about certain things, which I maybe should have gone to challenge myself a little bit, but I didn't really want to listen about some of the topics that they were going over, and I wanted to learn more about business. And there's a CFD there that does talk a little bit more about that. But there was ones that did more with adjusting, and I wanted to learn about that as well. I did those at the beginning because a lot of the times they end those at like week 10 or they stop doing them as much. So make sure you do those at the beginning so then you can go to the ones that you want to go to, but then also so that you're not freaking out after week 10 being like, oh no, no one's like doing theirs. I will say, I don't know how often LAK and I think it was Dr. Reinderman, they sometimes will come in for capstone and they'll do LAK's was like 2 hours. It was either 2 or 3 hours, and then Dr. Randerman was 2 or 3 hours. It was like one was 3 hours, one was 2 hours. And so like that kind of like set me over the edge for my lecture hours. But again, don't just bank on those things. Like get them done. And some will do it on Thursday at 12. So if you're not like a 8 a.m. person, then at least go to the one on Thursday and then go to your CFD ones. Unless your CFD one is the one that does it on Thursday, then you might need to go to another one. But anyways, so get those lecture hours done because that will like save you a bunch of time. Now, CD Lab is a little bit different than last try. CD Lab has a little bit different of a vibe to where it's more case study presentations than it is them giving you like having to go through one. So for instance, like someone will talk about a personal case that they had in the clinic, and you'll just sit there and you'll listen to them, and then at the end you'll answer questions and have a conversation. You'll have to answer like 2 questions for like attendance to make sure you're paying attention to it. And these are pretty good conversations depending on how much you engage in it. And I would encourage you to engage in them because they get really boring if no one else engages. But then also when you're doing your own, like take this time to actually reflect on the case that you did. So for mine, I reflected back on the case and I realized how bad I was at documentation beforehand. Because then like for me, I was like, I had to think back about the case because I was like, oof, I don't really have anything to answer this question. Or it would have made more sense if I put this in there. Or how did she really show up? So just, again, there's no judgment here. It's just use this time to how have I grown? Because I realize now that my documentation is way better than what it was beforehand. But then also see where are you still making those mistakes and how it could have gone better. But then also like if you were to do that case again, how would you do it differently? And you can talk about that in your actual case presentation as well. And I feel like that makes you more of a person and also realize that like, hey, we're all trying to get better here. Because I feel like a lot of people don't want to own up to that as much in school. And if you're that first person that kind of says like, hey, yeah, this is what I wish I would have done better, it kind of like creates that space of like, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. Sometimes you have to go first. And with that, don't feel like you already have all the answers with everything. I think the biggest thing that will make you grow the most in clinic is if you ask more questions and you challenge yourself and you do different things. So I kind of talked about this before, but like the neurodynamics case that I had, that challenged me a lot and that made me ask a lot more questions. But you may not have a case like that, but maybe the case like challenges you from like more of a mental perspective, or maybe you're not super used to doing rehab. Go and ask your peers, go and ask your CFDs about different things, but then also like challenge yourself with the types of flows that you do in clinic. Like this is the time to do that. And yes, it may change when you go to a different practice, but like find out what kind of palpations you like to do. Find out how you like to do your first patient exam. it may be a little bit different than the way that you were taught. Like, this is your time to get creative and do different things. And going to Adjustathon, going to MPI Extremities, like when I went to MPI Extremities, like this, I've always like had a focus on like the feet and making sure that like I palpate them or adjust them. But like I could tell with like some patients, like they would take off their shoes, but then some were kind of like, eh. And then when I went to MPI Extremities, I was like, hey, I'd really like to like palpate your feet and examine them because there can be like impacts up the chain. And then they were more comfortable with it. And then I had more of an intent of going in of like, hey, this is really important to me and I want to do this. So bottom line is like ask more questions because you're going to grow faster due to that. And like change the way that you do things so that you can actually find out what you like to do. Okay. So we are an hour in and I'm finally getting to the CBI thing. So hopefully I can make it to just an hour and 30. But CBI, oof. This can feel like utter chaos. I also feel like we had a interesting moment because of the whole ice storm thing, but honestly it helped me reflect on where I really wanted to go, which I really appreciate that, and just have that like slow down moment. But the application process has changed a little bit since like some people have done CBI. I don't know when they changed it to this way, but it used to be where you got matched. So kind of like with like med school, if like you had said like, hey, you're my top, and they said you were their top, and then you would match. So that if you didn't, like it was a whole weird process. Where now it's like they just send their offers to their first people, and then whoever, like if they denied that, then the next person that they did would like that would send to them. So it can feel really overwhelming on what to pick. I also know for us, like they give you that map that you can look at, that like US map, like all the CBI clinics, which is helpful. And I remember, I think it was like Try 5 where I was like going through them and starting to be like, okay, where would I want to go? Like looking at these different practices and giving me an idea. But then when we applied for the out of state, there was only like 60 out of state, and there's like over hundreds of CBI locations on that map. So what I've been telling people now is just, instead of saying, this is the one place I want to go on that like CBI map, start like doing a couple, like at least have like 5, just in case if that one isn't there when you go to apply, unless you know for sure that they're on there, then kind of have like a backup plan. So what will happen is, depending on what you want to apply to, so you get 5 places that you can apply to. And first it will be the people who do the 6-month CBI, which those are VA hospitals. And I'm pretty sure it's like out of DFW area, you can do 6-month CBI. So if you wanted to go to like, I think there's one down in Corpus Christi, you can do that one for 6 months, but you can't do the one in Dallas for 6 months. And then any of the out-of-state ones, so if you wanted to go to like Fayetteville, North Carolina, you can do that one for 6 months. But again, you can't do the one within the DFW area for 6 months. So those would apply first, do their whole process. And then the ones that are VA, any sort of hospital, so things like Cleveland Clinic, or out of state would then apply. And then after that, they would do all their stuff. And then a couple of weeks later, it's going to be the one within the DFW area. So if you are applying out of state, which is what I did, if you're applying out of state, what that will look like is you'll have to send in a resume, and I can't remember if you have to send, I think you have to send in a cover letter. So you can send in a cover letter, and you can make the cover letter to where it's specific for that clinic that you're applying to, or you can just make a general one. It kind of just depends on what you want to do. And then after that, once you submit that in and then they've like accepted you and approved it, then you can go in and start applying. This is all within like a week's process. So I recommend having your cover letter and resume kind of like ready, set, and to go. And for me, what I put on my resume is like I put that I was an MPI president. I put like the this other business that I've been working with that measures athletes. So I put that on there. I put tutoring. I put that I was a personal trainer and what that looked like. But then I also listed all of the seminars that I've been to. That's really important, especially for some docs, to just see that like you are growth minded and you will do things outside of school. Or maybe you coached a team, something like that. So like give them insights into things of that you will go above and beyond. I think I also put my podcast on my resume, which actually gave me some really good questions during the interview. They were like, what made you do this? So kind of something that makes you stand out too, if you can. So when you upload that and then you apply to your places, now I will say I wanted to apply to a VA just in case. And so I applied to 4 out of state places, but then I knew I wanted to apply to a VA, but I applied to a VA in state. So, or sorry, like in the DFW area. And so I had to save one of my 5 to then do that. You can't do like 5 out of state and then like 5 within the DFW area. You can only do like 4 then 5, 4 then 1. And so I applied to those places and then they looked at it, schedule an interview within the next week, and then you got to turn back around. And then on that Monday, it was like, boom, okay. Did you get an offer or not? And through this whole time, I thought it was still a match system. So I was like, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do and who I'm gonna do as my top. I gotta figure this all out. And then turns out later, it was like, no, it's actually just like a match, or it's just a like you click the offer. And I was like, well, that would have taken a lot of stress off of this. So I kind of put a little bit more stress on myself than really needed to be. But it was also kind of nice because we had that ice storm. I had that like pause and forced reflection of just slowing things down. Like I was taking walks in the snow for like 2 hours. My fingers were going numb. I was talking to people on the phone and like trying to figure out like what I really wanted to do, where I really wanted to go, what I wanted to get out of CPI and all these things. And then like I encourage you, like, yes, you can talk to your friends, but there does definitely become a different sort of vibe within the clinic if you're applying to the same places, and people will get weird. It just happens. It's like you're kind of competing, but you also care about each other, and so it's this weird like give and take sort of situation. It will pass. But for me, I knew I was like, okay, I got to minimize the amount of people that I talk to. If they ask me where I'm applying, like sure, I'll like open up and talk about it. But I'm not going to process everything with everyone, because then you get too many opinions and then you don't even know what you really want. And so for me, I decided to go to Winchester Spine and Sports in Missouri. I'm really excited for that. I'm going to learn so much there and I'm super excited. You guys all know that I really love functional medicine and that's something that I want to do. And Winchester actually has functional medicine in his practice, along with rehab and adjusting and neurodynamics and a bunch of great seminars there as well. And he's also just a great person to learn from. And the other docs that he has there are great as well to learn from. And I'd also be able to like practice some like passive modality stuff and get comfortable with that. And just the intern like learning that comes along with it. So they've got like studies, their old podcasts that they that him and Dr. Premer did together. So all of these resources. And the reason why I chose this was because I had talked to a professor that was helping me kind of process this during this time, and she had told me, she was like, go to where you feel most called to. Any place that you pick will like it will be what you make of it, and you won't love everything about it, but you also like you will find what you want from it, but you also will find what you don't want, which is even as valuable. She didn't necessarily say that, but she said this part. She said, no 3-month CPI will prepare you for practice. The first 2 years of practice will prepare you for practice. And that just like hit me. I was like, okay. It like gave me this like sense of relief of like, it doesn't have to be perfect and you don't have to pick the perfect one. I put that in quotations. Again, it is what you make of it, but then also you need to decide what is most important to you when it comes to CBI. What are you needing to work on the most? What are you wanting from it? Is it, I just want to get a ton of adjusting, and so I want to be adjusting all the time? Is it the business part of things? Is it like, I talked about functional medicine was something that was really important to me, but I also wanted the rehab side of things. Is it you want a place that like really focuses on athletes? Is it a place that does a lot of soft tissue? Like, what is the thing that you want to get better at? And for me, what was most valuable to me was, yes, no 3 month CBI will prepare me for the first 2 years of practice. But I asked myself, what would help me in those first 2 years? And for me, critical thinking was the most important thing to me. Whether that is they teach me how to critical think, I get the resources to learn how to critically think, or I am forced to critically think. And for me, going to Winchester's was the CBI that was going to help me the most within that. And so that's why I chose that, in addition to also the funk med portion. So I'm super excited about that. I'll probably talk about more of my experience in the like Try 10 podcast. But yeah, I'm super excited. At the time of recording this podcast, I will be leaving in a little less than a week, which is crazy. I'm so excited. So give yourself the time to think about what you want out of CBI the most, and then take that time to have those interviews. And those interviews aren't just, I want to show you how great I am because I'm really hoping that you pick me. Those interviews are also for you to get out of, is this the right place for me? So it's not just for you to get picked, but for you to understand, is this the right place you want to go to? So even ask questions about housing, like if they have intern housing, or if there's like a good area to go to, like ask those kinds of questions, because it's not just about the practice that will make or break where you want to go. I'd also say Furnish Finder is a really great website for students going out of state that don't want to like get an apartment, get super upcharged, but then you also don't want to like get an Airbnb and like pay that for 3 months. I don't even know if Airbnbs do that, but or if like you don't want to just go on Facebook and be like, hey, I need to live in some place, and then you're in some rando's basement and they tell you that they're not supposed to be there for that 3 months that you're there, and then they end up being there for half the time. So Furnish Finder is great. It's mostly for, and I'll make sure to put that in the description of the podcast, but it's mostly for travel nurses, but you can also use it as a student. They won't like say like that you can't. So that's pretty much the same thing for people within the DFW area. I will say the DFW area is very, very competitive, especially if you have a larger class size. Even my class size that was really small, there was a lot of competition within the DFW area, especially if you're more into that sports rehab kind of thing and the like mamas and babies thing. So I encourage you in Try 9, if you already know you want to stay in the DFW area, make time to shadow them before it gets really close to applying time. Like start going in weeks like 4, 5, 6, all those things. Because I think you guys won't have to put in your applications till more like week 10. So that's everything when it comes to CBI. Lastly, I kind of just want to talk about how to make most of your time when it comes to clinic itself, because Try 9 gives you time to do things, but you also got to like choose your time wisely. So take the extra time to like do your master's program, read research papers to like really actually like help your patients and dive deep into those. Practice adjustments. For me, I really wanted to build on my nutrition knowledge and also make money with tutoring. I also like knew that I needed to grow in my soft skills, so I did the leadership academy through Kyle Tom- wow. Thompson. Why can't I say his last name? Dr. Kyle Thompson. He does a great leadership academy. It's through the R2P membership, and it's great on personal development and building those soft skills. It's 3 cohorts. I'll actually be releasing a podcast later about him talking everything communications, having hard conversations, and what it's like being a leader on a stage, but also off the stage, and when communicating with just like one-on-one with people. So that's going to be a great one to listen to if that's something that you're interested in. And I definitely check out his leadership academy. I also grew in my faith a lot this year. So my church, Lake Point, if you are in the Dallas area, if you probably know of Watermark, right across the street is Lake Point Church. They're super great. I love them. It's like a small church vibe with a big church pastor. They have this thing called Rooted, where we weekly met with like the sweetest group of girls that just like helped me grow in my faith and learn more about God. And that has helped me so much this year. So take that time to like fill up that extra space you have, because it's really easy, because you've been through this program for like 3.5 years, just like that, go, 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 go. And then you have that extra space, and it's super easy to just like end up binge watching Netflix because it's like easy and mindless, and you haven't been able to do that a ton in this program. So like take some time to like do some things outside of school, grow yourself internally, whether that is just like you taking the time to like read a personal like growth development book, or just get more knowledge in a certain area that's really important to you. But then also just remember to have fun. Like I had mentioned that I really got into pickleball towards the end of the trimester, and I like forced everyone to go and play, and then now they all love it. So play, like have some fun, get outside, because like at some point like you're also going to be like stuck in a clinic for a really long time for CBI, so make some time with that. So don't just like fill your time unintentionally, because it will disappear really quickly, even though it feels like it drags on forever. And with that being said, like senioritis and burnout is real. Like it is. I didn't think that senioritis was going to be that bad. When I went through high school, like I was like, oh yeah, I'm graduating, and blah, blah, blah. Granted, it was also during COVID, so I was like, yeah, like I'm still going to do my assignments, I'm still going to do my thing, and like all this stuff. But boy, does it get really hard towards the end of Tri 9. It gets towards the end of the trimester, and you're almost to CBI, and then there's this weird like in between where like you have time but you don't have time, you have things to do but you don't have things to do, and you're so used to like just go 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 through like Tri 7 through Tri 8, and then Tri 1 through Tri 8, and then you hit Tri 9, and you have that like 4 to 3 week period where it's kind of just like you're not doing anything but you're also doing things, but you got to be here for hours and all this stuff. It's a weird balance. So make sure you stay disciplined, but also take those mental breaks that you need, and like go play some pickleball and have some fun. But also realize like when it's the hard times, showing up is even more important. So those things that you are committed to and that you want to get better at, keep showing up. Because the first hardest thing is to show up. The next hardest thing is to keep showing up. Quoted by Cody DMAC. I hope he's like actually the one who created that and he just didn't quote it from someone else, but oh well, it's fine. But yeah, that is Tri 9. It's been awesome. I can't wait till I can get on this podcast and say I graduated, because it has gone by so fast. I can't wait to look back when I am, I don't know, 40. I hope I'm still doing the podcast at 40. And just see the way that I've grown, just like not just as a clinician, but as a human. You don't realize how much this program forces you to grow, not only in knowledge, but also as a human. And I encourage you to just keep showing up and keep putting in the work. You may feel like you don't know what you're doing, or there's people around you who may be smarter than you, and it's probably true, but if they're smarter than you, that means you're in the right place. Because if you are constantly challenging yourself, you're growing. If you're not, you're either staying the same or falling behind. And your patients will appreciate how much work you have put in. But again, you also need to make time for like your own personal health and make sure you are taking care of yourself. So know what your non-negotiables are. Yeah. I can't wait to update you guys on my CVI experience. So until next time, get excited about everything that is about to happen for you for Try 9. It's going to be great. And I will update you guys on my CBI experience. Maybe I'll get someone who had a different CBI experience, or maybe I'll get someone who's been in practice for a year to kind of like contrast the both. So I can't wait for the next podcast to come out, all about graduating and all the things. But I'm also super excited for everyone who's listening to this podcast who is going into Try 9. It's going to be great. Keep it up. Keep going. And with all that being said, I can't wait to babble with you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Becca Babbles Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, the best thing that you can do is leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or any other listening platform of your choosing. If you want to learn more about me, you can do that by following me on Instagram at Becca and Wellness, or by checking out my blog, freebies, offers, and newsletter on my website at beccaandwellness.com. If you want to share the love of the podcast, you can do that by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media and tagging me and the podcast at Becca and Wellness and using the hashtag Becca Babbles Podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to babble with you next time.